So I usually try to have a deal or two on anything I do kind of boiling off to the side, so that when you come into the partnership or the alliance or whatever it is, and everybody's been talking about how great it's going to be, well, then 2 to 3 months later, we've brought in 2 deals ourselves. We've built up some internal street cred for what we said and who we said we are. And you all can return it at any time. That's great. That's not why we're talking about this. We're just saying that this is what we thought we saw, and it happened. And you made money and I made money. Were you okay with it? Okay. Was it like what I said it was going to be like? Okay, great. Let's tweak that, because we want to do this over and over and over and over and over to where you can just staff it with somebody.
Do you want your business to grow faster? Are you open to new and out-of-the-box ways to drive revenues and increase value? How do you imagine the most successful entrepreneurs and business leaders double, triple, or expand their businesses tenfold or more? The answer is Deals. This is a weekly podcast featuring conversations with business owners, executives, and leaders as we reveal behind-the-scenes details that give you, our listeners, the confidence to pursue your own deal-driven growth. On the show, we discuss a huge variety of deals, everything from large, complex mergers and acquisitions to smaller deals that you can do even without significant capital. My name is Corey Kupfer, and I've been supporting deal-driven growth for businesses for 35 years as a successful entrepreneur, professional negotiator, and attorney. My goal is to help you strategize, plan for, find, and complete deals that will help your company grow faster. Welcome to the DealQuest podcast. Let's get started. Daryle L. Johnson is an innovative, energetic, creative, and very charismatic entrepreneur who has significant success building business inside of companies and out on his own. Currently, he's the president and co-founder of Smart IT Mobility, a mobile-first tech firm, and the owner of Ideation to Valuation, an online learning program for business owners looking to grow faster. Well, isn't that what we all want, grow faster? Smart IT Mobility helps companies build out successful data-driven technology-enabled business growth strategies, leveraging digital platforms, mobile application development, data analytics, sales funnel as a service, human capital management, and IoT advisory services. Some of their customers and partners include T-Mobile, Sprint, Cradlepoint, HP, Google, and Mobile Tracker. Ideation to Valuation is a new venture launching Q4 2020 and is aimed at helping growth-hungry business owners launching, transforming, or pivoting their business models, customer segmentations, value propositions, go-to-market strategies, sales processes, delivery models, scaling frameworks, interactions with inventors, business certifications, long-term business valuations, and more. Also, throughout the program, attendees will hear from industry experts, learn from doing, interact with peers, and receive a lot of encouragement along the way, as he believes this is the key need of business owners today. Currently, Daryle serves on a board of advisors for several small and medium-sized firms, as well as he mentors several companies annually at no charge. When he's not working, he enjoys spending time with his family and church members, listening to music, watching motorsports racing, whiteboarding new ideas, and helping others achieve their dreams. Well, Daryle, I am so excited to have you on the program. I love all that you're up to. I, too, love helping people achieve their dreams, so we have something in common there. Welcome to the DealQuest podcast.
Thank you. And I hope that anyone who gets to listen gets some value out of what I have to say, because like I said in Wayne's World, that example, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
I'll tell you what, folks, Daryle's very modest, but he's got some great achievements, and we'll get to those. But Daryle, I want to take you back before we get to, what you're up to now and how the kinds of deals you've done over your career and strategic partnerships and all that kind of stuff. I want to take you back to when you were 8, 10, 12 years old. What did you want to be when you were growing up? Because I guess, for most of us, it wasn't what we're doing now, but who knows? Maybe that's not the case with you. What did you want to be when you were a little kid?
I had a father who worked basically at the power company, mm-hmm. and a mother who was home with us, but also always had an entrepreneurial side of something going on as an artist. And so, I used to see the rigor that my father would go through to support whatever he was needing to support, because I guess that's why you do that when you're that young, thinking about why do they keep leaving. And my mother, who was doing what she loved and getting paid for it. So that always looked like a funner route to me And so far in my career, I've been able to either get, gainfully employed where I actually really like the work, or they were open to some pivots that I suggest that I actually 100% own, leading, off in that direction, but, bring value and again, turn something that I might not have liked that well to something that I'm flourishing in. And so I guess an entrepreneur, somebody who basically owns their own destiny, and is flexible enough to adjust to real life. Because sometimes, work and life just don't line up.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. As far back as you can remember, I don't know if there's anything when you were a kid or older, whatever. What's your first deal of any type?
Oh, man, I was addicted. So I had friends, I'm like, I don't know. Kids were different when I was growing up. I mean, we used to walk like 10 blocks away from our house when we were 7, 8.
Right.
Definitely not doing that now. But we'd go in the candy store with a group of us, and they were always scared to go in. I don't know why. But I would go in, and I would take all their money and get the candy. Except what I negotiated before I go in there is that everything is double. So if you don't want to go in here with me, everything in here is double. If it says 5 cents, it's not 5 cents. It's 10 cents for you. And maybe they would pay. And I felt good and they felt good. And I was like, I like this. They're buying my candy.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was going to say, did you just keep the extra cash or did you actually leverage the extra cash?
No. No. Yeah. And that created a bit of behavior that, like now I challenge myself. When someone tells me something's going to cost money, I am challenging myself to figure out how they give it to me for free. What piece of value do I need to bring to them? Where do I leverage my network to bring something to them that's valuable so that they feel okay not charging me to get what I want?
I love it. So listen, let's just jump right into that, because what you just said there is, I always talk about that some people have the mindset of a deal maker and some people don't. And it's not something that it's something that can be learned. Some people are more natural at it, but it's something that can be, right? And what you just said was a deal making mindset, right? How can I get someone else to go, right? How can I call on my contacts? So what you're alluding to are partnership relationships, strategic alliances, joint venture, whatever you call them, right? Yeah. Bringing various people to the table. So, why don't you give us a couple of examples of some of those types of arrangements that you put together throughout your career?
Man, there's been quite a few, because when they're disguised as sales, they look like sales.
Right.
But that's just part of the transaction. There was a lot of activity happening before that. And the interesting thing is you keep getting sales. So you did the deal one time to get the sales all the time, right? But ones that come to mind real quick are where we took a group of partners because we wanted to solve for a problem with K-12. And especially even now with what's going on with COVID and e-learning all over the place, the program would be awesome to light it up again. There's an organization called E-Rate, which everybody could research, find out quickly that the FCC aggregates money to the federal level, and then schools make petition against that money. And the people that actually are able to get the money to schools, the amount that they cover for the things they cover, which is the internet and phone and wireless and all kinds of things, depends on how many kids you have on free and reduced lunch. So where you find that higher population of kids on free and reduced lunch is in your urban districts and in your rural districts. And one thing the United States has is a lot of urban districts and a lot of rural districts.
Yes.
And so we would go visit some of these schools prior to putting together the solution. While technology certainly was not, they still have computer labs with 5-year-old computers. Right. The fact the building was 85 degrees and you got little kids in here, it's like, how are they even paying attention when it's this hot? It'd be better to divert, much of your technology budget, which is your largest part of your budget, say people and buildings, is going towards, stuff that, is catching you up to 1989 still.
Right.
So we needed to design a program. And that's what we took it upon ourselves, is to put together a deal where we get all the right partners that solve for this thing in a way that makes it work the way we need it to work. And so the way we needed it to work is we needed the school to literally not be able to say no. So we came up with a way for the device to be $1. And we pulled in T-Mobile and we worked with their education leadership and got to a payback formula that they would invest in a go-to-market strategy. And they would do 10 on 24. So they would go in They would give away 10 months to get 24. So if you can get the number right, you can do some things. And so we introduced the concept of leveraging the connectivity against the E-rate for, I'll say, all the school districts, since this is recorded. But it seemed like the urban and rural schools had the most interest in dollar devices that were brand new,
right,
that also came with all of the software they needed to come with for the school. So the IT guy's not mad that they went, to an e-learning model. All the parents are notified that they will be able to access support for these devices when they come home. The teachers actually got between 12 and 60 hours of professional development. So Polly, who's a math teacher, been doing it for 20 years on a whiteboard, now has to look at a bunch of kids with laptops and figure out how does she control her own laptop to control a bunch of kids to teach them math. And we made sure she felt comfortable doing that. That actually was the linchpin in getting the deal done. Partner with a training company to do that for us. But ultimately, we got that partnership stood up. The deal that we negotiated was we leveraged T-Mobile sales teams. So we had the national director's choice on what markets to go in, end up picking 13 markets, put together all the marketing, promo, training materials, portals, a bunch of documents. So that the T-Mobile sales rep would go to market with this value proposition. They could speak certainly to the connectivity, but they needed one of our team to speak to the actual offer. And together we did some great things in that space. That program helped more than 60,000 kids get technology. That deal also spawned a lot of local deals that we had to negotiate for just contracting vehicles to get into the school. We had to renegotiate our banking arrangement because we went from selling like 1,400 devices a year to 25,000. They're all $400 each,
Hang on, I'm going to stop you for a moment because there's so much in everything that you said, and I want to help break it down for the listeners, right? So let me sort of contrast two alternative approaches, because I often talk about in various episodes of this podcast that, I say, hey, you have organic growth, which is sales and marketing and providing great products and services, and then you have deal-driven growth or inorganic growth. But this is a great example of where, and I always say the two are not mutually exclusive, and you actually did some of the deal-driven part of it to then help, foster sales. And in theory, you could have gone into the schools if you were just coming from a sales, not a deal maker mentality, and said, hey, we have this solution, right? And, we want to sell it to you for X price. And you would have been highly unsuccessful from what I gather in this, because first of all, the schools have budget issues, right? Second of all, there's all these other needs that go around the product when they would say, okay, well, who do we use, in terms of a provider? Well, you can go speak to T-Mobile, you can speak to AT&T, whatever, and they got to figure it out on their own. No, the training piece you brought in, right? The local contract piece. So you did a series of deals to put together an offering, like you said, not just to try to sell a product, that was a comprehensive solution, which helped you sell that solution, that offering much better. And, but what really fueled those sales was a series of deals you did and strategic partners, whatever kind of, it doesn't matter how they were legally structured, but let's call them key partnerships where big and small companies came together to produce a comprehensive offering that was much more attractive to the marketplace, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think the part that probably, if there's any lore in the industry, because we actually have some lore in the industry, because at that time, collectively, all of the carriers, T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint, filing for mobile data, schools filing for the grant to cover their mobile data. All four of them collectively were doing, at that time, this is 2012, 2013, maybe 1,500 a year amongst them all. And then you have T-Mobile the following year doing double the amount, 2,500. Then they come back with 10,000. Then they come back with like 35,000. Then they come back with almost 40 or 20-something thousand. And that's when we started getting calls like, hey, what are you guys doing? What is this program? And the piece that probably made the fire go was the subsidy of the carrier commission being able to pay for most of the stuff.
Right.
So it isn't like we made a whole bunch of money. We didn't make any money hardly. What we did is we made impact. They didn't think anybody would be crazy enough to do all that stuff and make, $20-$30 a rip when you could have made technically hundreds. But we wouldn't have had the value and the impact and some of the faces of the parents, that feel, you get the impression that they think their child is now going to make it in life because they got one of these devices.
Wow.
I mean, that's some of the stuff you see. And when you see that, there's no, well, we're going to try to make money. I mean, we're just trying to make these families better off. And that's kind of how we did it, you know?
I love that. And listen, everything you did, all the deal strategies, et cetera, you know, could also be used for things that are more financially lucrative as well. And I don't think financially lucrative and impact are necessarily mutually exclusive. But in this case, yeah, in this particular case, you would focus even more on the impact. And I got to tell you something, connectivity, I mean, you know, we're seeing it now during, you know, coronavirus, COVID-19, where, you know, all these kids are getting homeschooled and there's a real disparity amongst, you know, and again, in the urban and rural spaces where connectivity is still, you know, an issue, and they're not in the school buildings. And, you know, stories, I know people who, you know, like sitting outside, their kids are sitting outside McDonald's trying to get
or the library,
or the library or Starbucks or whatever, you know, trying to get Wi-Fi, you know, so it's so important. It's so important. Let's take a break from the show for a minute so I can invite you to join our DealQuest community group on Facebook. There, you'll have a chance to engage with other entrepreneurs, business owners, executives, and leaders who are looking to grow, do deals, and make a bigger impact. In addition to the great content and community, you can also register there for our Conversations community and cocktail Zoom calls and the upcoming Deal Den Zoom calls, during which you will have the opportunity to brainstorm and get support with deal-driven growth for your company. Now back to the show. Talk to me a little bit about, you know, in this example or any other ones you did, like, what is it, you know, I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces in a complex deal like that. We're bringing all the parties to the table. And what are some of the things you think about when you try to piece together something like that in terms of how you get it together, how you get everybody to work together?
It's easy. I follow this process. If anything, it errs on being too conservative, but at this point in life, I'm okay with that. The first thing is the relationship. So usually I'm trying to understand, and I even ask if we're not getting there, what kind of relationship are you open to having right now with this, you know, in general, and with this project that we're starting to talk about? Mm-hmm. What kind of, you know, am I going to be a transactional relationship, a strategic relationship? Where are you at in your 5? You got room in your 5, or am I not going to be in your 5? I'm okay with whatever the answer is. I just need to understand right here at the beginning, before I do or think or drive myself or any of our team towards anything, where are we at with that, right? And there's no wrong answer. It's more about just taking the temperature, right? Yeah. That's one. Then 2, what is the budget? If the budget doesn't sound right, or, you know, then we have at least an opportunity to kind of pull over and talk about who told everybody that this was enough money. And then from there, it's effectively, we are trying to solve for something. And sometimes this one goes first because it depends on what it is sometimes. But What are we trying to solve for? What's the question we're trying to answer? What is the thing we're trying to solve for? And if we solve it, what happens? Trying to understand the actual value impact of whatever it is that we're trying to do. And then as it relates to the money and how everything's going to flow between us, you know, how did we all envision getting this deal done? How did you think we were going to contract to take this down? Yeah. You know, and I like to think about that last.
Yep.
And usually at the end of that, either there's someone still standing, right?
Yeah.
Which is great, or I've got a whole lot of time back.
Right. Right. And if it's right, then, you know, then people are still there. And then talk a little bit about, you know, because this is another difference in my mind between some salespeople, because I'm not, you know, I don't want to say anything. There are great salespeople out there, but certainly transactional salespeople who make the sale and then walk away, as opposed to relationship-based, right? And education-based salespeople. But, you know, certainly in a deal, you know, I think one of the things that distinguishes a deal is that it's not just a sale. It's an ongoing relationship that sometimes, you know, evolves and changes and it's roadblocks and things like that. Yeah. So talk to me about how you continue to maintain and nurture and, you know, keep those relationships healthy and those partnerships working.
Well, I think the first thing is, and it may not have been probably highlighted, but the reason any of us are talking is because there's even a larger strategy at play, even without this opportunity that's before us right now.
Yes.
The reason they're there is because there's much more reason for you to be here than just this deal, right? We're just trying to make, some of them are on an interview, see how it all works out, right? But the ones that are strategic are, to me, have a functional fit. So value for value, we're in this. There's nobody that's really getting paid that is not providing any value. So there's first like a real come to Jesus on where is the value, because that's also where the equity distribution should also be thought through. And then who's taking risk and what kind and how, and what is it costing you? And we all know this, right? Doesn't mean anybody's going to change any money. We're just saying that's what comes with that square, And then for a lack of better things, you try to force a deal to happen. Just make one happen, because that's the best time to tie up all this conversation. Make a deal happen. I usually try to have a deal or two on anything I do, kind of boiling off to the side, so that when you come into the partnership or the alliance or whatever it is, and everybody's been talking about how great it's going to be, well, then 2 to 3 months later, we've brought in 2 deals ourselves. We built up some internal street cred for what we said and who we said we are. And you all can return it at any time. That's great. That's not why we're talking about this. We're just saying that this is what we thought we saw, and it happened, and you made money and I made money. Were you okay with it? Okay. Was it like what I said it was going to be like? Okay, great. Let's tweak that, because we want to do this over and over and over and over and over to where you can just staff it with somebody.
Yes.
And you just, again, manage that relationship. But the value equation that we put together, that we made, is what really is selling this deal. You could take my name out and your name out and this company out and that company out, put 2 other companies that provide the same kind of value that the other one doesn't, in a way that makes sure they complement one another. There's some art in finding that, but it's just a value fit to the market. I think that's the other part is, do you have value? And who told you do? And was it enough of them with money?
So the other, right. So that the piece you said right before that I hear you saying is that, if you're doing, and I talk about this a little bit in other contexts as well, is that, one of the things you're doing in some of these deals is that you're sort of building a model that's repeatable, scalable of how you do these, how you create these relationships.
Sustainable. The last one.
Exactly. Sustainable and, and repeatable. This is great, because too many people on deals, on sales, and everything just do one off, and they don't, what it takes really to be a successful deal maker on an ongoing basis is to, have a vision for what you're creating and how you're doing it, and creating the model to have that happen so that you can, leverage, because there's a lot of upfront work in creating these structures and finding what works and all that kind of stuff, whatever. So why not use it over and over again if once you created it and figure out how it works? Yeah.
And what's interesting is, even in like pulling these things together, again, you really have to like the person, whoever the person is. You kind of really want to like them, because this is going to be a thing. Like, this is going to, we were with that on that project we did with T-Mobile.
Yep.
We were embedded with about 15 to 20 people for about 24 months daily.
Wow.
I mean, daily, because the growth was like a rocket ship, right? And so it requires that. Well, if you don't establish that these folks are genuine and you can have a good conversation with them, and now we're trying to fix the bus while we're going down the road fast, man, that makes the deals nightmares. What I was going to also say on the sales side is, I think one of the ways I try to think about things, turn sales into a kind of a deal, still a big sale, is how do I hit my number? Where I used to say this in my quotas, how do I hit my number with one sale? I know everybody else is selling 25 deals a year to get there. How do you just do it in one? And that has always driven between how do I do it in one and who has these customers already that I need to get to.
Yes.
And who's got a door that if I knock on it, it literally opens up into that building in the right department. And then map back to my value equation plus them. And what does that look like together? And then how do I tweak mine to sharpen their saw? I know what I want.
Right. Daryle, that is DealQuest listeners know that I have brought this up, repeatedly on the podcast, because I think it's so crucial. And it's amazing to me how underutilized it is. I talk to companies sometimes that I'm, whether they're clients of mine on the law firm side or doing, some of my DealQuest programs or just mentoring them, whatever it is, the friends, they may hit a wall or, sales have leveled off, or maybe even, they're dropping and they're having trouble just, getting into different markets. And I'll ask them that simple question, well, how are you doing that? Well, we're reaching out to people. We're trying to do, whatever it is, online, marketing, cold call, blah, blah, whatever it is. And I say to them, well, who else is in the, who has access to those customers? Have you reached out to them? And so often the answer is no. I'm like, what do you? Somebody who is in front of these customers all the time, who has a complementary, at least not conflicting, and maybe even more ideally complementary product. That if you cut a deal with them, you're going to stop banging your head against the wall. And it's amazing how often companies don't realize that very fundamental kind of deal, and you get it naturally.
I think you have to have just a whole lot of audacity. It seems like that kind of thinking helps you get out the box.
Yeah.
Because sometimes like when I was doing that stuff with schools, we'd have some leftover budget. And so we would ask the teachers or the e-learning leader, like, what else can we help with? Where else can we make an investment of whatever? Where else can we make an investment? We'd say something like that. And they would say like, well, maybe you can get us 6 more boxes of pencils. Like, okay, sprinkle some audacity. Just pretend like you can just aim for the ridiculous. You think maybe, and some paper? Like, oh my Lord. Like, how do we teach folks to just have more audacity? People are smart. They're going to tell you no if it's something they don't want to do.
Right.
No,
right.
It's okay. But these models now, you might stumble across Uber, or the next models are coming out of having some audacity just to ask for the mildly ridiculous. You might find that that's helping somebody else out.
So what you're saying, Daryle, is that you have to be that kid who's willing to go into the candy store.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And you know what, Corey? I just want to see what's inside. I was already going in, whether I had no money, in fact, more times than not, I had no money.
Right.
So that's what the motivation for me also was, is I have no money and I want candy. You have money and you don't want to go in the store. This is easy.
I love it. But I said that in a joking way, but it really is, as far as the mentality, whether it's in the candy store, or, these bigger strategic alliances and deals we're talking about, it's that same mentality. It's that I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to figure out a way. I'm going to bring people together. I'm going to, provide value. We described the 2 companies you're involved in, pretty extensively in the bio. And I think a lot of what we've given examples is related to some of the IT mobility, stuff that you're doing.
Yeah.
But you also have this, so if you want to say anything more about that side, feel free. But you also have this ideation to valuation, new venture launch. And I definitely want you to give an opportunity to talk about that one as well.
Yeah. Corey, I don't do a lot of podcasts, honestly. I think you're I'll say second or third. And I don't know if the other 2 will get out of the small town they're in, right? I don't know.
Yep.
But you're prime time. And I guess I'm going to give you an exclusive, Corey. Okay? I'll give you the exclusive. I can't stop myself from helping people.
Yeah.
I can't. I've tried. I'm older. When you get older, you say you're set in your ways. I must be. I can't. I'm addicted to helping people. I'm addicted to helping people. And the only people that call me for help are coming from people that know me well and know that if it came from them, I'm going to look out for them. Just like if you sent me somebody, I'm not just going to give them 2 minutes and see you later down the road. It came from you. So it's a reflection of my relationship with you that they're benefiting from, right?
Yes.
It just so happens that, not too many people don't send them that are that way, right? I'd say conservatively 4 or 5 people helping with their model, go-to-market strategy. Sometimes their sales processes are all jacked up. They don't even get close to mirroring the customer's sales process. They don't have a delivery methodology. So I usually run through this I'm a process person. So I kind of run through this process every time. It's the same every time. And so one day I was talking to one of my mentors and he was like, what are you actually saying to people? Like if I just walk, why does it take so long? And I'm like, well, I just don't want to shortchange anybody, but to me, it matters what their customer segment is to me and their value proposition and do they align? Those things matter to the customer as well, right? So I said, if I could just take all that and put it online and then give somebody like access to it, that would be great because I'd get some time back.
Right.
Not only would I get time back, but I'd be able to help in a better way, go through these modules, whatever, right? And so that was a thought maybe 6 months ago. Now it's an online course with a mentoring program that's going to launch, a national mentoring program. And there's going to be also there's on the site, it's got some pretty chilling statistics if you're trying to be a business owner. especially if you have employees. But there's also, encouragement in those numbers too. Everybody didn't die,
Right.
and those people that didn't are trying to grow. And so you can do a whole lot of, one of the things we look at is motion, like literally you physically, how much motion do you have to go through to make the money you do? If you got to go through a whole lot of motion, I don't know. There might be some tweaks you can do to your model. There might be time to look at innovating in a different way with your existing customers. I don't know. If you got to do all that motion, people are automating motion at this point. Your competitors are probably not going through that much motion to deliver value.
And that was a trend that was happening pre-COVID. That's just the way business is going. And now when people aren't meeting in person anymore, it's only been accelerating. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so this is out of a desire to help. I now have turned it into courses. So I don't have a total date, but Q4 I'm looking to launch. I have some businesses that know me and know me well. I've been mentoring them for a while. They're going to do some testimonials for me.
Yep.
Just to, not take it from me, and really, to be honest with you, I don't even know how many people are going to know it's me. I'm kind of irrelevant to the fact of whatever you get from the courses. Thing is, this is a tool and a resource for the people that don't know. I'm trying to figure out a way to make sure they don't have to pay, or that I leak a promo code, and people that'll Google for 2 seconds will find it, But the corporations and the organizations that I'm affiliated with that are looking to level up their small business supply chain folks, they really like it. Yes. And that's where I think I may be able to monetize. So I'm still figuring it out. The impetus and desire was to get something out that will help people. That's my goal.
Great. Where do people go if they want to see more about that? What's the URL?
They go to www.ideation2valuation.com, and that's a TO in the middle there.
Excellent. Ideation2valuation.com. And if people want to find out more about you, in general, are there other social media sites, any other contact information you want to give?
I am a super duper, I'm probably like if they got super fans of software applications, I'm probably up there as a super fan of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I saw early on, and I think it was like 2010, I think we talked about this. I stopped taking random people's, if I don't know you, you're not in my LinkedIn.
Yep.
Because I said to myself, like, this is 2010. I can keep all of my contacts in my phone. Okay. Or I can make LinkedIn my contact list. If I make LinkedIn my contact list, I won't lose all my contacts again. And I'll have a heck of a lot more data on everyone in my contacts.
Yeah.
Because LinkedIn is my contact, right? And so find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best, fast, quickest way to get to me.
All right. And folks, so that's, you'll see it in the show notes, but that's Daryle Johnson on LinkedIn. And you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that if somebody mentions that they heard you on the podcast and they're not looking to just be transactional and sell you, that's somebody that you'd be willing to talk
absolutely.
To and connect
absolutely.
with.
Anybody who comes from this show, I'm absolutely honored to connect with.
Awesome.
100%. Awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. So that's great. So my last question on the podcast is always about my highest ideal, which is freedom. That's my highest value in life. And for me, it means everything from, freedom for all people from oppression and discrimination to the reason I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm unemployable, quote unquote, right? Because I want to do it, in my vision, the way I want to do it. I'm super collaborative. I'll bring people in, but I want to be, that's what it means to me. What does freedom mean to you, and how does it impact your business and life?
First of all, being able to get to the mindset first that you are free.
Yes.
That was hard, and it is hard every day.
Yes.
But if you also realize that, like for me, I'm willing to stake my whole existence on the direction I'm trying to go. I'm willing to die at the computer doing it. That's how all in I am on what I do. And so if I can't do that, I'm not free. Yeah. And where I can't do that, I'm not free. And I try to only stay involved in things that I'm free, because I'm just not a good employee at that point, or I'm not a good partner, or I don't know. It feels like walking backwards when you know you should be going forward. How long do you really want to do that? So I'm measured 3 times, cut once, to make sure most of my deals I can live in that freedom that you're describing.
I love that. Daryle Johnson, thank you so much for being a great guest on the DealQuest podcast.
Wow, thank you, Corey. I'm very honored to be on the program, so I greatly appreciate you.
Totally great to have you. And until next week, folks, talk to you soon, and appreciate you being on, Daryle.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of DealQuest, where we help you understand how deal-driven growth can be your ticket to freedom. You can be a friend of the show by leaving a review on the Good Pods app, podchaser.com, or any major podcast player. Every review helps the show reach more listeners. If you're ready to take your deal making to the next level by becoming a master negotiator, head over to Amazon or Audible and grab a copy of my best-selling book, Authentic Negotiating. Then connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know your thoughts. I'm Corey Kupfer. Until next week, wishing you the freedom and financial prosperity that I know your DealQuest will bring.